All right, so what did you think of the film? A fucking long film, by the way. Was not expecting that.
I mean, I'm glad I had eggs and pancakes this morning because really, after 3 hours, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. First, I was like, I don't need to. It's always my anxiety when I go see a movie. I'm always thinking, am I going to make it through the movie or would I need a pee break? It's like the first thing I think about. So like the strategic choices of where you sit in the room is extremely important. And whenever you're the one buying the tickets, I'm like, oh my God, I did not think about that. Like if there is people on my way, I can go as fast as I can.
No, you want to sit in the middle. Were you nuts?
No, you're trapped in the middle.
You're going to sit on the side of the theater just so you can use the bathroom.
Always be on the side. So if you need to run out,
first
you
of all,
can.
That's crazy. Secondly, this is an amazing response to the question of what did you think of Tarantino's movie?
So let me get there. So at like 2/3 of the movie, I'm like, okay, I've been doing pretty good. I think it's been a while. Yeah. Should I go use the bathroom? And once I start thinking about that, that's when the movie becomes interesting, which is about, less than an hour before the end. And I'm like, fuck, I can go now. Yeah. So, I kind of had to like work on myself a little bit. But, I think we saw I think we saw the trailer a few months ago. So to be honest, I had no recognition of what the movie recollection.
Yeah, whatever. It just doesn't matter.
Whatever.
People get it.
Of what the trailer and the movie was going to be about. So, but because it was a Tarantino, I had a super high expectation, like visually, actors, costume, music, plot, like every single thing. Yeah. And I was kind of getting a little bored toward the middle of it. As the guy behind us was snoring. So we should definitely talk about the audience members. But this movie I think is going to be a lot different than what people expect. This is the 8th or 9th Tarantino movie, and he's said numerous times he only plans to do a certain number. I think it's 10. So basically, I think he has 1 or 2 left after this. I think maybe it's 1, and that's it. That's his idea, his approach for filmmaking, which is interesting to say you have a set number of projects as opposed to doing as many as you can or just taking what comes across your lap, but just being very specific. Is really, really interesting. But I think this one is different than what people will expect in that there's not a lot of action and there's not a lot of violence. And there's not a lot of swearing either. You kind of expect Tarantino movies to be very gritty and very, to make you squirm in your seat because of the violence. And even though he doesn't show violence a lot of times, right? He does show a lot of violence, but some of the most iconic scenes, you don't see the act itself, but you feel it. There's not really any of that in this film. Toward the end, there's some pretty violent moves.
There's one kind of big fight scene, not even a big fight scene, a fight scene, and that's it. And everything else is basically just people talking and crying and whatever. So I think that's different. The one thing I liked about the trailer was that it didn't reveal what the movie really was going to be about, which I enjoy because I found more and more that trailers just ruin things. Having said that, like you said, it is Tarantino. He did Inglourious Bastards. He did The Hateful Eight. He did Django. You kind of expect something along those lines. Very different movie. So it's like 2 hours and 50 minutes or something, right? There's previews, so maybe 2 hours and 45 minutes. Yeah, basically 2 hours and 20 minutes of nothing happening, and then in the last 20 minutes, kind of shit hits the fan, and then the movie ends.
I mean, it was fine because the actors that it chose for most of the movie scenes were Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom
Cruise. Tom Cruise, what are you doing in the movie? You don't belong here.
Then Brad Pitt, they're both very charismatic people and very entertaining and very good in any roles that they're playing. So that was enjoyable. And seeing both of them at the same time on the screen was really enjoyable. I do think it's another film I want to see again. I start to wonder if the anxiety I have in watching a film and my perception of it is distorted by the fact I'm seeing it for the first time. When you visit a place for the first time or you see a movie for the first time, for me, sometimes I'm more concerned with finding out what's going to happen. I want to know what's going to happen. What is it going to be like to be at the top of the Eiffel Tower? What is it going to be like to eat French food? What is it going to be like to see this movie? What's the plot? And I feel like maybe that ruins the experience. And if with a movie like this, especially, I think it's paced in such a way where you're not really supposed to think about that. You're supposed to just sit and enjoy it. That and finding what's going to happen, and also like I was having expectation about the person who made that movie and expecting things that he's done before to be in that movie that were not necessarily there.
So there are certain things in the film that are very Tarantino, classical Tarantino. The kind of hyper, almost not cartoonish is the word, over the top violence or action scenes that occur, or the cutting back and forth between totally different narratives that end up meeting together at the end. That's something he does. But basically, the film is about a soon-to-be washed up Western actor, a cowboy actor, basically. And the film takes place in like the 70s, right? Or late 60s,
Late
70s, something like that. And that's Leonardo DiCaprio, and then his stuntman, who's Brad Pitt. And that's kind of it. And then you have some other Hollywood people that come into the mix, but nothing really happens with them. Nothing that would allow me to like describe a story arc. And DiCaprio's character becomes upset, then he gets apart, then he goes here, then he goes there, and somewhere along the way, Brad Pitt's character comes across Charlie Manson's camp, and then at the end, some of the people from the camp tried to kill them, and they survive, and that's it. Like nothing. There's not really any.
Charlie Manson?
Yeah, the murderer, Charles Manson. You know the
Yeah. But that was the camp.
That's the camp. Yeah.
How did you get that?
Well, they say Charlie. The guy who showed up in the very beginning, near the beginning of the film, to Margot Robbie's house when the guy's eating the sandwich. That's him. Yeah. Oh. Which I don't. But it didn't really have any effect on anything.
But the whole kind of like side narrative with Margot Robbie and Roman Polanski, happening in parallel as Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
It was very confusing because the whole time I'm like, okay, when are they going to meet? Like,
exactly.
When are they going to meet? When are they going to meet? And they only meet like maybe 5 minutes before the end.
It's the last scene that they meet. They don't have a single scene together except for the very last scene, which lasts like 10 seconds. I mean, it's not like... I mean, Tarantino's done films in the past that were very tightly controlled. Like The Hateful Eight would be a prime example, right? It takes place in one room, basically, with 8 people. And his most mainstream film, one of the most mainstream films, would probably be like Django, right? Django, there's a pretty typical narrative of beginning, middle, and end. There's a journey, there's a hero, there's a villain. He goes through problems and he wins. Like it's there. This film felt like it wasn't really like a complete movie. It felt like just the ingredients of a Tarantino movie. So it's not like he made a birthday cake. It's like he just took the ingredients of the birthday cake and then threw them at you, and there they are, right? And I say that because, like we were talking about, the two narratives, or there's like maybe 3 narratives, are just totally unrelated and don't have any interaction with each other. And when they do overlap, it either happens at the very end or it just happens kind of by chance, and there's no real meaning behind them interacting. And I think if you accept that as being part of a Tarantino film, fine. But even then, it just didn't bring more. Like in Pulp Fiction, there's a lot of kind of weird overlap, but it's like fucking fun to see Bruce Willis come across these different people and hit him with a shotgun and stuff. And this one, it just didn't. I don't know. Didn't click, I would say.
I mean, now that we saw it and we talk about it, like I could get the idea of what the movie was supposed to be.
Yeah. And
I understand that it was not gonna be like what I was expecting, but still, I don't know if I'm fully satisfied with it,
I think part of the thing too that made it difficult for me was that the people that we were sat around. So we saw this movie Saturday morning at like 10:45, thinking that it's a good way to see a film. The theater won't be overcrowded and whatever. We have to be more careful when we go and what movie we're saying, because this time we're paired with basically an old audience. Everyone is like 50 years old or older than that, and I've never been in a theater. Because they wake up
early on Saturdays.
I've never been in a theater with this few number of people making so much noise, like eating shit or talking. There's so much talking in the film.
I was wondering if that's like an old people thing, right?
It
like
is.
Just talking loud, like when you're not supposed to. But I don't know if it's because they don't give a shit or if it's because they're not even aware that they're not whispering.
I don't know what happens when you get old.
Or your body doesn't know how to whisper anymore.
It's a fear of mine because it seems like old people just don't know where they are and don't have any kind of social etiquette. Not because they don't care, they just seem oblivious, like totally oblivious. Like we were seated kind of in the middle. People like way down in front were talking. Someone started like hawking loogies in the middle of the film. It was really like so loud and during dead silent moments of the film. Like,
I thought that person was dying.
I was like,
what's going on in the audience? Somebody losing him?
And then the two groups behind us talking. Oh yeah, that's supposed to be Charlie Manson. And the wife's like, yeah, I know. Thank you. I get that. Oh, yeah. That's Bruce Lee. She's like, yeah, pretty clear it's Bruce Lee because it's a caricature of Bruce Lee. Like, I know that's Bruce Lee. Thank you very much for describing that the only Asian in the film doing kung fu who's talking like chicken sounds and wearing sunglasses, that's Bruce Lee. You need to say that out loud, you dumb fuck. And I think the wife was kind of embarrassed. And this asshole fellas, he was asleep for 2/3 of the movie. And how do we know this? How do you know someone's asleep in the movie? Question. Answer, because he's fucking snoring. You've got to be joking. You're snoring in a Tarantino way. It was kind of boring. I'll give him that, but he's snoring. And the wife had to wake him up at least 3 times saying, you're snoring.
She's like, stop it.
It was disgusting. You could hear the lard flowing through his blood. And you know, those people, like, and I thought for a moment that when they entered, I thought he had just ran a marathon.
Well, they moved seats actually. They were toward the right and they moved toward the center and they sat behind us and he was breathing heavily.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, I hope he's not gonna breathe like that the whole movie.
And he did.
Because it's hard to get into the movie if you have like stuff happening in your ears, like right there.
It was really distracting. And I think for that, it's especially worse with this kind of movie when it's not huge action and continual adrenaline and just images pumped in your face, but there's very deliberate pacing, pauses, silences, and long moments where not a lot happens. And honestly, I blame the people behind us so if I gave this movie, let's say, a 75% rating out of 100, I would say that a good 10% of that being removed off of 100 was because of the people behind us. Like I just couldn't get in the mood because these guys were talking. It's embarrassing.
That reminded me, when we used to go to the Alamo in Brooklyn.
Oh, yes, I missed the Alamo.
They have, like, I don't know how many warnings at the beginning. Like, no talking. If you start talking, you're going to get, ejected from the room and you'll never be able to go back in. Yeah. And, as much as it's kind of like, okay, well, don't, like, babysit me. In the same time, I'm like, well, actually, at least we're all on the same page when the movie starts. Everybody's going to do their best to behave, which makes the experience more enjoyable.
No, I totally approve it, and I prefer it that way. So the Alamo Draft House, I think all of them are the Draft House, right?
Probably.
It's a movie theater, and they have a very strict policy of if you talk or make noise, other people in the audience can notify the waiters because you get served food, and you get one warning. If you do it again, then you get kicked out, no refund, and that's it. There's no discussion, no anything. You just get booted out. And I've never seen anyone get kicked out of the theater at an Alamo, but it makes everyone shut the fuck up, and it's much easier to be like fully engulfed into the movie, and live in that reality for a bit.
I think also for like movies that are that long, like about 3 hours, it's actually maybe a good movie to go see and get food at. Like, I think I would have liked to eat while watching that movie, like go to the Alamo. Because after 2 hours, especially when you start at 10, your stomach gets hungry. And then all you're thinking is like, okay, when is it ending? Like, I'm starving. I need food. And you ate all of your mini popcorn you smuggled in your purse. And now you're just like on water and you can't use the bathrooms.
It sounds like maybe you should bring a diaper and some food bars the next time you go to the theater. Or maybe some like those, Cliff Bar shot blocks that cyclists eat, the goo. You could just suck on some of that.
Why are you always sucking on things?
What?
Say that. No one sucks on any food bar that I know of. But.
Well, it's not a food bar, it's a little gel block thing. Anyway, the other thing that was funny with the audience is that the movie definitely has some kind of funny parts to it that are meant to elicit laughter. but there's not that many, and most of the funny scenes and dialogue are not big hearty laughter like a comedy. It's just a small chuckle. But I feel like with the group of people that we saw, they intentionally over laughed. So if someone says something witty in the movie that should elicit at best like a that, people in the theater are like, yes, I know that reference because I'm old, that kind of thing. And it happened throughout for 3 hours.
Or maybe it's because they don't laugh the whole week, so they're like keeping it in, and then when something is there, it just bursts.
It's tough because it's a period piece, and obviously people in the theater, when they see something they recognize, like an old canned food or an old commercial, they get some joy out of it. So, but then every 2 minutes, it's the experience is littered with like, yeah, right. Like, oh, remember that, darling? Oh yeah, Bob. The guy in front of us had a weird kind of device. I don't know what that was about.
Oh, I think it's because he, I don't know, was deaf or maybe had some hearing problems.
I think it was a hearing thing.
But it looks like. That's why I thought it was provided by the theater, because it seems like it was meant to fit within the cup holder, right? At first I was like, okay, is this dude like gonna record the movie and like put it on YouTube? Like, really, man? You brought your little video camera with your own homemade stand? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck do you think you are?
I thought that too, but that didn't add up because he was an old Chinese man, and that I don't.
Chinese?
Yeah, I don't feel like
I couldn't tell from the back of his head if he was Chinese.
Well, he's old. I mean, that's the one thing, right? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but I couldn't see his tiny eyes from the back.
But why would a 70-year-old man illegally record something? They don't even. That's not their.
Well, it was
MO.
dark. I didn't know it was old at the first glance I gave him.
What are you talking about? He's bald in the
So
back.
what? You have like older guys that
He's
are
wearing
super
like a
geeky and
New Balance jacket. That sounds like a hipster, actually.
Very particular. But yeah, no. And then the movie starts and the thing turns on, and I see like text on it, and I'm like, oh. At first, I was like, is this to see the image closer? Because maybe his vision really sucks.
That's what I thought.
But then I'm thinking, well, the screen is pretty big. Like, I don't know how much this is going to help, because it was just like one band, you know? And then the text started showing up. So I understood that was for subtitles. So I figured he probably had some hearing issues.
I guess all theaters have that if you need it.
That makes sense. But so if you're blind...
So actually, you could ask for that if you are from a different country and you don't speak this language. You don't speak English. You could be like, look, I don't speak English. I want to watch the film. Do you have like the subtitle thing for, handicapped
French?
people? Yeah, for French. I mean, if you don't speak English, it's basically a handicap. No, nothing. No. Okay.
No. Sorry.
What else is there? Let's see. It's hot in here. It got hot. I underestimated the temperature of this room. Production design, set design, costume design, all great. I don't know. Camera work, fine. The one thing that was odd about the movie is that it's about actors in Hollywood, but a good portion of the movie, the film that you're seeing is films within the movie. So a lot of times you're just watching a movie within the movie. So you're watching Leonardo DiCaprio play an actor, right? But it's not like, but it occupies the full screen for a good part of the film. So I don't know, there's a good 15, 20 minutes or maybe even more, I don't know, where you're watching people act like actors or actual old footage of The Great Escape or something like that. And it kind of, there's so much of it that it almost started to blur the boundaries between reality and fiction. I don't know if that was his intention or what. It didn't quite do that, but it started to, I felt like, because we spent so much time watching these people interact with each other in a Hollywood, and in a movie within the movie. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
which actually I know how this is called in French, and I was wondering what do you call that in English?
What is it called in French?
Mise en abîme.
No, I don't know. What is that? How do you translate that?
I don't know how to
House of Beans?
Yeah, House of Beans.
No, what is it?
Mise en abîme.
Well, how does it translate?
I don't know. I don't know what the word abîme translates to. But that was very present in the movie for quite a while. But the thing that kind of intrigued me during it was when you would see Leonardo DiCaprio watching TV with him in a movie, right? And it looked like a legit, 60s, 70s looking movie with actors in costumes and even like the facial, their faces, like their expression, their lines and everything. They looked like they were from that time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, did they actually shoot this scene with like contemporary actors and make it look old, or did they just use an old movie and kind of stitch scenes together with Leonardo DiCaprio and some cool filters to make it blend together?
They did a little bit of both. For The Great Escape, which is a movie you haven't seen, right? We should watch it. You haven't seen The Great Escape?
No, probably not. No.
Okay, well, for that clip that they showed, it was the actual Great Escape, and they just CGI'd in Leonardo DiCaprio and replaced Steve McQueen, which is totally bizarre. But Tarantino did so much of that I feel like at some points those sequences lasted so long that I started to wonder, like, am I supposed to be getting to know the character that is being played, or am I supposed to be under better understanding Rick Dalton, who Leonardo DiCaprio plays? Like, it was so extensive that I kind of felt like it took away from knowing the actual people in the movie that we were watching. But it was
probably meant to express a lot of that nostalgia of the time, and probably meant to an audience who would know those references.
But even if you know I knew the majority of the references, it's still like, I don't know why I'm watching an actor play an actor. I don't get anything from that. Like, I don't. By watching a scene that's, let's say, 3 minutes long, right, of an actor playing an actor, I don't get to know the character that I should be interested in any better, because I'm watching him act. Unless he breaks down and fucks up, which you show a few times. But a lot of them were just like full on acting, and I don't know what that really brought.
But so he did that, right, with Leonardo DiCaprio, but with Margot Robbie, they didn't change her in the movie, so that was extremely confusing, because they don't really look alike. Like, they're both blonde and attractive, but that's it,
Yeah, so Margot Robbie plays an actress. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Is it Robbie, whatever? She plays an actress, and in this movie, she goes to a movie theater to watch herself on the big screen. But the clip they show is from an actual movie starring Sharon Tate, who Margot Robbie plays, but they don't replace Sharon Tate with Margot Robbie, so it's just SharonTate. It's really bizarre.
It was interesting.
And obviously with Tarantino, everything's really specific, so you really have to wonder, why did you choose to... They could have just
put Sharon Tate's face on Margot Robbie if they couldn't do the opposite.
Or the inverse or something, I don't know. But like, why do it here but not there? And I'm not quite sure. I think like his movies are definitely ones where a director's like dialogue to go commentary would be really interesting. I don't know if he's ever done that, because his films are like maybe 65% about Tarantino and 35% about everything else. It feels like, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that when you go see a Tarantino film, that I think you're always kind of dissecting it and trying to figure out, I don't know, how the film relates to Tarantino, right, as the creative author. And it's not like, how to describe it, that's another thing. It's not like you go to see the film just to enjoy the film almost, and just enjoy the ride and the actors and the dialogue and the story. You're also thinking, like, this is a Tarantino film throughout the film. Does that make sense? And maybe that's just me, but I feel like anyone who knows his work and is a fan or is interested in movies would feel that way throughout it, as opposed to other directors who are not nearly as closely attached to the things they create, that you can go see them and you're not going to kind of be so conscious of who the creator was.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other directors that have clear styles, like Guy Ritchie, although he's kind of done other things, like Aladdin was not really typically Guy Ritchie. But I don't know, with Tarantino, it's much more like you're really stepping into his world, and you kind of have to accept that if you're going to see his film, which is an interesting relationship between the viewer audience and this seat is so squeaky. The viewer audience and the creator, right? That you as an audience member are having to accept certain things and deal with certain things if you're going to partake in this kind of art piece, you know.
Well, and it's like, you know, I kind of respect that and appreciate that, because that tells me that he is in control of his own art.
Right.
Right. And he's not like doing it to satisfy the viewer or appeal to the masses, or, you know, like he's just doing what he believes he should be doing.
Yeah.
Which I respect a lot.
I kind of feel like this movie would be a lot of fun and enjoyable if you're just interested in watching some really good actors have some good scenes together and say some stuff, and just to watch them on the screen. But it doesn't really add up to more than that, I feel like. You know, it's like watching DiCaprio do his thing. Awesome. Love watching him. Brad Pitt, of course. Margot Robbie, she was a smaller part, but yeah, absolutely. And other cameos by Michael Madsen? I don't know, the typical Tarantino people. Yeah, totally on board. But did I get more out of it than that? Not a whole lot. Maybe if you're from Hollywood, or you try to make it in Hollywood, or you're from that era, then you would get more out of it. But I don't know. For whoever I am, it was kind of left the theater feeling more or less not really excited by what just happened.
Yeah, me too. Like I didn't wake up my senses.
Yeah,
really. I showed up kind of, you know, sleepy and hungry, and I left kind of the same. So I guess it's good we went in the morning. It was cheaper.
Oh God. Okay. Anything else with the film?
Like even Brad Pitt, he didn't do a whole lot in that movie, but just, you know, the way he smiles at the camera, the way he walks around.
I think actually that was a problem with him and his character, is that it was just Brad Pitt being Brad Pitt, I feel like.
Yeah.
You know, kind of doing the crooked smile, standing at kind of at a diagonal, and like smiling and being tan and being Brad Pitt. And that was kind of like all he did. And I feel like the whole movie was, I feel like he took the first 10 minutes of a movie and said, okay, I'm going to make this into 3 hours, and that's going to be the movie. And that's it. Do you feel that way?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So what's his attachment to Western movies? I feel like he has a special relationship with that.
I don't know, actually. I'm sure you could find interviews about that, but
like,
I'm not sure what the case is.
Did he become a producer because he couldn't make it as a Western actor? You know, like what's the deal?
I don't know, but I was also expecting a cameo to occur, because he typically shows up in his films.
Cameo?
Cameo means he appears. He acts in the movie for a short.
Oh
moment.
yeah, I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
I was like, is he hiding somewhere? Like,
yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, what would you rate it out of 10?
I would give it a 7.
7?
I think that's fair.
If you saw it again without Mr. McDonald's behind us, what would you rate it?
7.25.
Yeah, I give it like a 7.5. If I saw it again, I'd probably give it a higher rating. It's so hard to get in the mood. A note to anyone listening: don't go see a movie with a bunch of old people. It's the worst experience ever. They fall asleep, they snort, they make noises, they make comments, and a good chance some of them are racist because they're from that era. And that's stereotyping, but you can just fucking deal with it. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
Well, I hope that was a little better pace than the movie we just saw. I mean, it wasn't boring, but it was definitely a little...
Just don't go see the film with Mr. McDonald behind you, and don't see it with a bunch of other old people, because they ruin the film.
And make sure you eat enough before you go, and you pee enough before you go.
Yeah, tighten up those bladders. Thanks, everyone, for listening to this week's episode. Leave us a review in the iTunes podcast app if you can, or feel so inclined. Reach out to us via social medias, Instagrams, tweets, Twitters, Facebooks. What other things are there that can be thought through the website? What else is there?
Email. Pigeons.
Owls. And let us know what's going on with your life. And that's it, right? We're good for now?
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you again sooner than next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.